You were talking about studying the game. I think you were referring to podcasts. So, do you remember the first podcast you listened to and what year it was?
Yes.
Put me on. What was it?
It was you know what I said I wasn't gonna do this episode was shout out nobody else's podcast. But my big heart and my big ass age of mine says it doesn't really matter.
I'm about to say it goes far. You might really say it and somebody might hear it and then
I said that to myself. I was like, why? But anyway, shout out to Don't Call Me White Girl and Mona. That was the first podcast that I actually listened to. That was the first person that I followed on social media.
What year?
That was in 2021.
Oh, so you okay? You new to this podcast?
Yes, I'm new to it. Okay. I'm new to it because I didn't realize that you could just have this much energy and this much personality and this much charisma and just sit on a couch and capitalize off of it.
You know what it is too with podcasts? It's around that time it was becoming new to be visual podcasts. When I got into podcasts, that shit was audio only. You didn't even see the niggas you knew that was listening to. Like.
Okay.
At all. Like I started listening to pods in probably like 2013. I'm still living in New York at this time. I'm listening to
that's live.
Brilliant Idiot, Charlamagne and Andrew Schultz, the comedian podcast, Joe Budden podcast, obviously when he had Rory and Maul on there still. They was just audio. Actually, I was listening to it at the beginning when he had Peter Rosenberg and this girl named Marissa Mendez on there early on. Then Rory came on and then Maul came on later on and they branched out and made a video. You know what I mean? Couple other ones, Desus and Mero, Taxstone, Free Taxstone, you know what I'm saying? Like early on with the pods. Combat Jack. That whole loudspeaker network branch that was before, it don't exist anymore. It's really just Brilliant Idiots in the Read now. I don't even think the Read, I think they might be independent now. I don't even know if they on loudspeaker anymore. But that age of podcasts is when I was listening to them. Because the job I had, I was driving on the road. I used to drive all the time. Mm-hmm. So I had... Music gets kind of boring after a while. If you listening to the same shit, podcast, I was like, oh, you felt like you know people personally, just listening to them every week. You start picking up on inside jokes. You feel like you're a part of it. So for us to be only 17 episodes in and people come to our live show is a blessing because, you know what I mean? Like
that is the particular goal.
Usually further along.
Way further along. You feel me?
That is the particular goal. To speak to your point, I really just want to start getting more content to the people for behind the scenes and more content to the people that show them who we are really.
That's important.
Mind you, when we have live shows and when the camera cuts on, we're potting. You know what I mean? Now we're in pod mode.
We're in
like now we're in I gotta make you laugh, or this banter has to be this type of way, or I know I gotta tell Doe this to say, you know what I mean? Like it's pod mode at this point.
It's a job. Back to what you were saying.
It's back to a job. It's back to a thing. So I made sure that I was telling him, like, for Patreon, just to my Patreon listeners, y'all will definitely get more behind the scenes. Y'all will definitely get more raw footage. Y'all will definitely get more who we are. Y'all will definitely get more private talks, private conversations, shit. You might get just one episode where Two is on there just giving his shit, and then you might get one episode where Doe is on there just giving his shit, and then you might get one episode where it's just me, you know, just spilling my beans. You know what I'm saying?
You might get invited to movie night.
You might get invited to movie night. And just make sure that y'all are checking in with us. I want y'all to see this come from
grassroots.
Y'all are literally no cap. Y'all are literally. If you've been paying attention from episode 1 up until now, y'all have seen it go from a living room to a daiquiri shop to a private location, skyrise.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Overlooking the skyline of Houston to another dope location with exclusive sneakers and exclusive gear. Shout out to Sneak Houston.
Definitely the best set we've been recording. And this right here is probably the greatest.
Well, we can all be comfortable at one time.
Nigga, you see this couch?
Y'all are watching
big
growth.
Comfy couch?
Y'all are literally watching growth in real time.
And if you're not paying attention, then that's your loss.
I mean, it really is your loss. I do want y'all to know us though. I want y'all to know who we are as people, which is why I've been reaching out this week. I talked to you niggas. I was like, hey, this episode, I definitely want to give everybody their time to speak. I know I'm a bit
long-winded.
I'm a bit
longer-winded. Riri be carrying the wind. Storm out here. But you growing. I you know what I liked? When you hit me during the week, like, yo, I've been watching back the pod, and it's certain times where y'all trying to get y'all words out and I'm cutting y'all off. I don't want to do that no more. I was like, yo, that's growth.
Yeah, I did appreciate that.
Shout out to Riri.
Yeah, like that's when I got that message, I was like, nah, that's my sister for real. I was like, you gotta understand that it's growth and shit like that. You don't get that every day.
I truly care about the direction of where we're going as a collective.
That's personal growth. That's not even just podcast growth. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause that you can take that along in just regular life. You know what I mean?
But can you imagine that it took me to sit on this couch and to do this podcast with you individuals to even come to that conclusion in my life?
Because you know why? It's probably because you never really cared that much about anything else before to make the change.
Which speaks to, again, who you are as people. Like, there's nobody I've surrounded myself around who made me see that in myself. Do you understand what I'm saying?
That's like, you need to be around.
Real talk.
That's how how we be moving.
I damn near want to cry.
This is the vulnerability episode.
Rebirth, the podcast.